Pores 2. The Boy Who Sold Wisdom. Let's read and enjoy. Nagendra was orphaned and found himself without a job. He was clever and he had learned many things by observing his father. One day he had a brilliant idea. He went into town and hired the smallest and cheapest place he could find and set up a shop. He spent a few nickel coins he had on paper, ink, and a pen. Over his shop he put a placard that said, "Wisdom for sale." All round him were merchants who had large shops. They sold cloth, jewellery, fruits, vegetables, and things that people bought every day. Nagendra called out, "All kinds of wisdom for sale, reasonable prices." The people who had come to buy things could not see anything in his shop, but could only hear the words he was shouting. They crowded round and laughed at him. No one bought even one piece of wisdom from him, but he was patient. One day Babu, a rich merchant's son, happened to pass by and heard the wisdom seller hawking his wares. Wisdom, wisdom of all kinds. He was a stupid boy. He didn't know what was really being sold. He thought it was a vegetable or a thing he could hold in his hands. So he asked Nagendra what it would cost per kg. Nagendra said, "I do not sell wisdom by weight. I sell it by quality." Babu put down a nickel and asked Nagendra to give him a nickel's worth of wisdom. The boy took out a piece of paper and wrote on it, "It is not wise to stand and watch two people fighting." And he asked Babu to keep it tied in a turban cloth. Babu went home and showed his father what he had bought. He said, "I bought some wisdom for a nickel, and I have it here tied up inside this turban cloth." The father untied the knot, looked at the scrap of paper, and read what was written on it. "It is not wise to stand and watch two people fighting." He was furious. He screamed at his son, "You fool, paying a nickel for this nonsense? Everyone knows you should not stand and watch two people fighting." Then he went to the marketplace and stormed into Nagendra's shop and scolded him soundly. "You scoundrel, you have cheated my son. He is a fool and you are a cheat. Return the nickel or else I'll call the police." Nagendra said, "If you don't want my goods, you can return it. Give me back my wisdom and you can have your money back." Gupta the merchant threw the scrap of paper at the boy and said, "There, now give me back my money." Nagendra said, "No, you have not given me back my wisdom. You have only returned the paper. If you want your money back, you will have to sign a document saying that your son will never use my advice and that he will always stand and watch people fighting." The passers-by supported Nagendra, so Gupta readily signed the document and took his money. He was happy that it had been easy to undo his son's foolish bargain. A few days passed. The king of that land had two queens who hated each other. So did their maids. They quarrelled as bitterly as their mistresses. One day each queen sent her maid to the market. The maids went to the same shop and both wanted to buy the same pumpkin. There was only one pumpkin, so they began to quarrel. Their abusers and jesters were so fierce that the grocer fled the place. Babu, who happened to be nearby, remembered his father's contract with Nagendra and went there to watch the quarrel. The maids fought, tore each other's hair, and came to blows. One of the maids noticed the merchant's son and said, "You be my witness. She struck me." The other maid cried, "You have seen with your own eyes who struck whom. You are my witness. She has hit me so many times." Then they remembered other errands and went their ways. The two maids went to their queens and told them about the quarrel, adding all sorts of colourful details. The queens were now furious and sent complaints to the king. Each of them sent word to Babu that he was the witness on her side. If he didn't speak in support of her, she would have his head chopped off. Babu was in a panic. When his father heard of this, he too was in a panic. Finally, the son said, "Let's go and ask Nagendra. He has wisdom to sell. Let's see what he has to say to get me out of this scrape. So father and son went to Nagendra, who said he would help, but the fee would be 500 rupees. Gupta paid him the money, and Nagendra said, "When they call you to court, pretend to be insane. Behave as if you understand nothing of what they say." Next day the king called the witness. He and his minister asked Babu various questions, but he wouldn't answer any of them. He merely babbled and uttered nonsensical syllables till the king lost his patience and drove him out of the courtroom. Babu was delighted by the success of the ruse. He told everyone about Nagendra's great wisdom, which soon became a buzzword in the marketplace. Now Gupta was not pleased. He saw that his son would have to feign madness always, or else the king would find out he had been tricked. He would certainly chop off his son's head if he found out. So back they went to Nagendra for more wisdom for another 500 rupees. Nagendra advised them, "Go back to the king when he is in a good mood and tell him the whole story. He will find it amusing and will forgive you. But make sure he is in a mood of laughter." And so Babu followed the advice, found the king in a merry mood, and told him the story. The king laughed a lot and forgave him. Then the king, who was intrigued by what he had heard of Nagendra in the market, sent for him and asked if he had any more wisdom to sell. The boy said, "Of course, I have plenty to sell, especially to a king. But my fee would be 100,000 rupees." The king paid him the 100,000, and the boy gave him a piece of paper on which he had written, "Think deeply before you do anything." The king was so delighted with the advice that he made it his motto, and he had embroidered on his pillow and engraved on his cups and plates so that he would not forget it. Some months later, the king fell ill. The minister and one of the queens had been conspiring to get rid of him, so they bribed the doctor and persuaded him to poison the king's medicine. When the medicine was brought to the king and he lifted the golden cup to his lips, he read the words engraved on it, "Think deeply before you do anything." Without suspecting anything, he thought about the words, lowered the cup, and looked at the medicine in it. The doctor, who was watching all this, felt nervous. His guilty conscience made him believe that the king had guessed that this medicine had been poisoned. While the king was thinking, the doctor threw himself at his feet and confessed to everything and prayed to be forgiven. But the king ordered that the doctor must be arrested. Then he sent for the minister and the queen and insisted that they drink the poison in his cup. They too fell at his feet and begged for mercy. He ordered them to be hanged, and he banished the doctor from his kingdom. He made Nagendra his minister and honored him with wealth.